Welcome to Top Shelf, where we seek truth,
opinion,
perspective,
and we seek solutions.
What an excellent season this has been thus far, man. It's been great. Oh man, like some of the episodes we've had about prenups and you know about Kanye, about some of the we've had all types of conversations.
Yes.
And I'm just looking forward to more conversation within this. But before we get into any of that, we need to pray. So I'm gonna actually go in. I'm about to pray for us because we actually have a guest in the house. So I'm gonna just pray for this conversation we're about to have.
Let's go.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, God, we just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for this platform. Thank you for this conversation that we're about to have. And God, we just want to say thank you for what this season has been doing thus far. It's all glory unto you. Everything we do is unto you, Lord God. We pray for everybody that's going to listen to this podcast. We thank you for the topic. We thank you for our guest, Terrance, Lord God. Bless him, Lord God, and keep him. And just have your way in this conversation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So we have an illustrious guest in the house. I could.
Whoa.
Illustrious.
That's a big word.
You know, look it up. Look it up,
on the wrong
Anthony.
type of podcast.
Anthony, look it up and then learn how to spell it. Anthony, like, whoa, hey, boy, chill out. You got to define it first, boy. Anthony, can you introduce our guest?
This is a friend of all of ours, a listener for Top Shelf, Terrence Charles. I don't even know where to start, man. This man has been in my space for approximately 10, maybe even 15 years. And I'm honored that he can grace us with his presence. Terrence Charles, Top Shelf Podcast, welcome. Let's welcome him with a village hand clap. If you just submit, like, just be able to embrace all of the wisdom that he's about to give to us. So Terrence Charles, can you tell us just a little bit about you?
All right, y'all. What's going on? My name is Terrence Charles, TC, whatever you feel like calling me. That's me. A little bit about myself. Okay, great. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I love Jesus. I'm married. I have 2 children. And I'm just excited about walking in purpose and helping people walk in their purpose as well.
That's
Wow.
lovely.
I love it.
Love it. So, Terrence, you probably have heard our podcast before, and we always do a mental check-in. But this time around, I feel led by the Spirit. How's your walk?
Ooh, that's a good
Yo,
question.
y'all want to hear something? My walk since the beginning of this year has definitely prayer and fasting in the foundation of my walk since the year has started.
Talk to me.
Coming into 2022, a lot of decisions pertaining to myself, my family, business endeavors. I just came in like on the fence about a lot of things. And coming into this new year, I'm just like, you know what? I can't figure this out on my own. Like, I just cannot. It is impossible. Me and my wife, as smart as we both are together, we still can't figure out some of these things. And so I just, since the year has started, anytime I'm in battle with the temptation, I'm just like, you know what? I'm praying and fasting the next day. No questions asked. And I just spend time praying and fasting. Like, that's it.
I love it. I love it. Okay, I want to impart that same question to Jeff. Jeff, how's your walk, bro?
Man, my walk's been great. This year is, just a continuation of what was been revealed to me last year. And now it's like I could really feel what my walk and my purpose, things are starting to take place. But I have to stay, not only stay focused, I have to stay disciplined. So I have to stay disciplined on what God is asking me to do. And like one of the things is that, and I love what Terrence was saying, is that when there's a tough decision, because a lot of times we can have our own decision or what we want to do, but God may be like, there's a different direction I want you to go, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously you want to submit to His will and be under His perfect will, right? And that's one thing that my pastor have always stated, like, be under God's will, under His perfect will, even if you step off a little bit. But when you're under His will, God's going to make sure He takes care of you the way He has called you to be. And that's something that that I've been doing this year so far in this journey. Because I have a big decision I have to make within the next soon. Let's put it that way, pretty soon, so I can really start my walk. Well, not really start my walk. My walk's already been there, but really just start the journey and being disciplined throughout that whole journey. So this is going good.
I like that. I like that. I like that.
I like that.
And Tony.
So I was thinking about what I'm gonna say, but it's been interesting, and I say interesting because before I was all in, and then there was a then part. That then part, I said to God, challenge me. And as soon as I said that, every day there's been a challenge. I'm like, God, can you just give me like a 3-week notice? Like you it's too fast.
Nope. Not at all,
I know I'm not working on your time, but at the same time, God, like the moving pieces with my wife and I, about to buy a beautiful house, my job, but it's like so many things are allow me to see that when you talk and open up your mouth, like my good brother just said, God will show you. And it's like, okay, you want to be challenged? Say no more. Keep that keep that same energy. So I am proud of the challenge and I'm ready for the challenge. But it's allowed me to make sure that I'm in my word.
Yeah.
Even though it's scary, I'm in my word. And one thing I'm not doing, one thing I'm not going to do this time around is be by myself and
I love that.
and try to figure it out by myself. I'm gonna ask stupid questions and it's like, yo, I don't even know this, and like, help me out. And that's what God is allowing me to do, say, and my action plans.
I love it. I love it.
Great question.
I feel like for me, this year, man, moving, it took a whole lot out of me. Moving from one part of Jersey to the next, it was just like, but it was significant. My wife was like, we agreed this year is going to be different than last year, and so what we've been doing is like every month, out of 1 week, we fast that entire week.
That's beautiful.
And we've been making sure that we stay consistent. That means no entertainment, no, and then we only eat from a certain time to another time throughout the day, and we spend time in just prayer because we want to be war ready. We want to be open for what the enemy throws at us. We want to be open and ready to pray for whoever, to give to whoever, to what God is going to do as well. Because I realize more than anything, like God has so much, like God really wants us to be like vessels and wants us to be givers. You know what I'm saying? Give out of what we have, you know. It's so crazy. I'm gonna tell y'all what happened today. It was so crazy. Like I woke up to a text message and I'm like, we pray about these little frivolous things. Like we be like, God, I help gas prices go down. God, we pray for these little frivolous things. Like God,
that's not my prayer, but I hear you.
Yeah, but some people like are like, God, help me pay this mortgage. God, help me do this. God, help me do that. But then everybody, there's still people struggles that are even more. You know what I'm saying? People struggle. Like I got a text message this morning from this lady who used to do our so we used to send our laundry out to get done And every time this lady would greet me and my wife, pick up our laundry, and come to find out she was a believer, right? I come to find out, man, she imparted to me that like her daughter was going back and forth for bone marrow treatments for cancer that she had, you know, and I was just like, oh, I was like, me and my wife praying for you immediately, you know what I'm saying? And she texted me this morning because we had moved out of the neighborhood, and she let me know that her daughter passed away.
Oh wow.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah,
Those to her and
yeah,
the family.
man. Yeah, man. And I was just like, God, this is the mission. My mission is people, bro. It's people out here hurting, bro. And we it's not up for us to be closed off. We're supposed to be open to them, open to people,
Right.
open to them, and just praying for them and helping them in any way that we can. We're supposed to be to love our brothers and sisters. Like it's bigger than us,
Right.
you know? And that's what I feel like where my walk is right now is like, I'm not gonna just, I mean, yes, we gonna have a great time here while we're here and while we have life and have it to the full. But our mission is people and telling them about Jesus, bro.
Amen.
That's it.
And I'm just like, that's where I am right now, man. And it's just been so inspiring. And when we talk about like us going to church and us doing this and us doing that, you know. And when y'all hear the statement, your gifts will make room for you, what do you think? What do you think about?
Can I be honest? Like I didn't really understand that until
Mm-hmm.
um I was in my I was learning what my purpose looked like.
Yeah.
And I was okay to say no.
Mm-hmm.
Um if it's not aligned to my purpose. And because I realized when it's your gift,
Mm-hmm.
every door will be open if it's your gift and you're aligned with your gift.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't make any doubt of your gift. You just live it every day you wake up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's when I begin to understand it will not just make room for you, but it also prepare tables that you're not even around. So your
That's
names are
it.
gonna be in rooms that you're not
That's
even gonna
it.
be around.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
had to be
That's
like,
it.
I had to be okay with it. And I think me and my brother talked about this the other day. It was about that imposter syndrome that was in my head. It's like, what if? But God don't live, and I had to learn this. God does not live in what if.
Mm-hmm.
He said a gift that you have received.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's, I believe in this earth, everybody's mixed with their own DNA, and with that own DNA, you have your own gift. And
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times, the best gifts are in the grave. Why? Because they took too long to get there. So, I think that's for me in regards to gifts.
Okay.
That's an excellent point, Anthony. I love that, and I agree with you. I believe that we all have a gift, right? We all have a special gift. We all have a God-given talent that God gives us, right? And He wants us to utilize those gifts. There's no point of God giving you a gift and you're not going to utilize it, right? Because He knows what you can do with that gift. Remember, God knows the future. He knows what's going to happen tomorrow. He knows what's going to happen next week. He knows what's going to happen next month. He knows what's going to happen next year. So when He states to you, trust in me, He's already letting you know, like, I know what's going to take place. He knows what we're going to do before we do it, right? So when He gives us a gift, He wants us to utilize that gift, because the purpose of utilizing that gift is not for our own benefit, it's for Him, right?
Yeah.
It's to advance His kingdom, it's to glorify Him, it's to show non-believers, right? People may who not believe in God, people who may not believe in Jesus Christ, to be that walking testimony, right? So I remember one of the things that I prayed for as a spiritual gift, right? One of the spiritual gifts I prayed for, and I noticed the more I started praying for it, I started seeing a shift and a difference, and then it put me in tune with my walk and my purpose. Something I would never even imagine was wisdom, right? So I asked God for the spiritual gift of wisdom, right? Like I've always felt, I always felt that I was a smart guy. I always felt that I was like a pretty wise guy. Like I remember when I was younger, when I first got into college, I wanted to be a psychiatrist, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I wanted to be a psychiatrist because people would say
That's dope.
people would say I give great advice. I'm a good listener. I all these different things, but I got discouraged. Right, I got discouraged by my aunt, and it wasn't like my aunt was discouraged me. She was just painting the reality of going to that profession, and it was really more regarding education. She was like, it's more than just getting your AA or getting your bachelor's. You're gonna have to go. You got to get your master's and so forth. So you're gonna have to go an extended period of time more versus just a 4 year regular um, college education, right? 4 year college education, and it discouraged me for whatever reason. It did, right? So now we fast forward where a couple of years ago I started asking for wisdom, right? Again, God gives you a gift. And I always knew I had the gift of like listening and giving great advice. People always told me that, right? Even when I went on a different career path, people was like, yo, you should really you're really good at mentoring to people. You're really good at speaking to people. You're really good at uplifting people. You're a positive person. And so now you fine tune that with wisdom being poured into it, spiritual wisdom being poured into it. My purpose came to light, which my purpose is God has called me to be a pastor, right? And so now I'm in that transition of looking to go back to school, but going to seminary school. This is what I was saying earlier on, where I have to make a big decision as far as what school the guy wants me to go. I can pick and choose what school that I want to go, but I got to pick and choose. I got to select the school that God wants me to go. Because one of the things that my pastor was telling me, Pastor Marie, shout out to him, we was having a great conversation. He was giving me some wisdom on this. He was like, you can choose where you want to go, but you're going to miss out on some of the gifts and lessons that God's going to give you if you don't go where he wants you to go. So this is why I was saying being disciplined
Mm-hmm.
on your walk, being disciplined on your calling, being disciplined and being accountable and responsible with your gift, because there's a lot of responsibility that comes along with it, and God is not looking for you to use your gift as something small and minor. He's going to maximize it beyond your wildest dreams and imagination, because again, this is to advance his kingdom. This is to glorify him. This is to show the world who he is and who he can use any and any body that he wants to use to show like, hey, I can select this person who may be not a public speaker, who may have trouble articulating words, but I'm gonna make him become like one of the greatest men that's ever to walk and live, right? He used Moses. Look at the story of Moses. Moses stuttered. Moses wasn't really like he can go up in a public forum and speak, but God said, I'm using you. And he freed, you know what I'm saying, the slaves out of Egypt, right? So God can use any and anybody that he wants to use, but everybody has a special gift. And when you pray on that gift, he's going to want you to maximize it.
Can I interject?
Yes, sir.
So, you know, adding to what you're saying, and going back to the question about gifts making room for you. First Peter 10 says this, and this is the Passion Translation. It says, "Every believer has received grace gifts, so use them to serve one another as faithful stewards of the many-colored tapestry of God's grace." When I see gifts, having gifts, right, I always go back to the scripture, because having a gift is great, right? But your gift is not meant. Your gift is meant to serve others, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like
True. True.
in the
Fact.
kingdom, and in the world, we easily about that aspect of our gift for us, but it's
Right.
to serve others. And so
I
Right.
the
love that.
reason why our gifts can make room for us is because when we make a choice to serve others or serve God, or
Yeah.
taking it to just an at-home level, serve our wife and
Mm-hmm.
serve our kids with those,
Talk.
gifts has given us for that aspect, it makes room for us,
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
right?
Very
It's
good.
so great.
And so, I tell people, especially people that I'm, young people that I'm talking to, encouraging, mentoring, you we talk about like serving and giving of time. Um, Being gifted doesn't mean you've been given something. It means you have something to give.
Like that. I like it. I
Mm,
love it. I love it, T.
yeah. Ooh.
Great job. Great job.
Yo,
Excellent.
I'm not being
Terrence, you gotta say
facetious
that
when
one
I
more
say that
time.
either.
Nah, Terrence, you
Yo.
gotta say that one more time for the person in the back, that person
Okay.
that is hard of hearing, that did not hear that. I need you to say that one more time, bro.
Again. One more again.
Being gifted doesn't mean you've been given something. It means something to give.
Ooh,
I love it.
Right. Right. And
ooh, I
I
got
think,
That's
goosebumps.
you
that's
know what's
powerful. That's
you
dope.
know, as soon as he was saying that, like I was just like imagining like when God was giving out gifts, like he gives you yours, and then you're holding your gift in your hand and you're like, yeah, I'm about to do something great with this. And then you look in the mirror, you like, oh man, wait, I look good with this
Yo,
gift.
yo,
Like I
bro,
look good
I
with this
love
gift.
I love that. I love that, and that's why humility with our gifts. Not only just humility, but also knowing what you're called to do with those gifts. And what always I use as the analogy is David, right?
Yeah.
God gave David a gift, right? And
Ooh,
he killed the lion, he killed the bear, he took care of the sheep. When the time was ready, he was ready to give up his gift. He was ready to serve his country, serve the Lord with the gift that God had given him.
Hmm.
Now that goes to the part, even for us. Now, how are we stewarding our gifts?
Hmm.
Right, right. Because he gives to each something, and we got to learn how to steward it. Because it's like
Exactly.
you can give somebody money, but if they don't know how to steward it,
That's
then
it.
they
It's
won't
gonna
have
go to
no money.
waste. That's it.
Very
Exactly,
true.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
exactly. And
And that's why
I
that's
think
what
Mm-hmm.
I'm
that's the
saying.
main
There's a
thing.
huge
so
responsibility that comes along with it. When you have that gift, you have to understand the high level of responsibility because he wants you to use that gift in that way to serve people, to serve him, not just for you to flaunt, not for you to boast. You know what I'm saying? But to make sure that um, you are serving those that you've been given that gift for.
Right,
Exactly.
absolutely,
so I
absolutely.
so I'm in this balance. So here's my balance. So I'm thinking about David. David's chilling in the garden, and he just
Mm-hmm.
working with his sheep. He don't even know he has a gift. Once again, he doesn't even know he has a gift.
Mm-hmm.
How do you develop or express to us? Because I'm thinking about that person that's right now in the Uber that has amazing gifts, that has amazing ideas. How does that person know that they have a gift? Where do you start? Because in this conversation, I feel like, from my perspective, my opinion, I think we're talking about the person that knows that they have a gift. I want to talk to that person that knows that they have a gift, but they don't know where to start.
All right. Surroundings.
Okay.
What I'm a firm believer that if you even if you don't know you have something, there's something that you are passionate about, and if you're passionate about something, that is what your gift is tied to.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Put your and surround yourself with those things that you're passionate about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I definitely agree. I think it's so crazy. When I first came to New York, there were so many options of things to try, to do. Uh, and it was just like, what am I surrounded by? I kept looking around like, okay, I can do that, but what's because I think the first church that I went to when I got here was Brooklyn Tabernacle. Now
Hmm.
I said to myself, I could go into the drama ministry because yeah, that's what I do. But like what does God want me to do? Like what there's more to that.
Mhm.
That's one part of it, right? But there's more to that. Like so I went into the drama ministry and I was helping people with costumes. I didn't directly like say like, yeah, put me on stage. No,
Come
I
on,
was like,
wardrobe.
let me help you
Yeah.
with the wardrobe. Yeah, let
Shout
me help
out
you
to the
with the wardrobe.
wardrobe. Don't
And
sleep on
that
the
and
wardrobe,
but you know
people.
what that turned into? That turned into, hey, I want to help with the young adult ministry, like, because I am a
Mm-hmm.
young adult, and that turned into like, okay, what that jail ministry looking like? What the homeless ministry looking like? What we doing over here? Like, it's like, what is your heart open to? You know?
That's the
That's so
thing.
true.
Like you, you have to, you know, serve for the
Mhm.
fulfillment of that gift to be manifested, as
Mm-hmm.
it says in First Peter.
Mm.
Mm. Oof, oof.
That's a
So I,
good. That's a good
you
one.
know, but so you surround yourself. Do you have any more stuff? Because what we want to pride ourselves on as a Top Shelf podcast
Uh-huh.
is just also the solution. Because we stay in the motivation, but I want to also go into the part where we talk about solution. How do we get
Okay.
there?
Okay. Yo, honestly, and we talked about our walk,
Yeah.
is our relationship with the Father. Uh,
Okay.
that is the biggest component, at least for me, the biggest component in utilizing my gift and the Lord connecting me with people so my gifts are useful.
Mm-hmm.
A
Mm.
lot of us,
Most definitely.
but they're not being used the way they're supposed to because they're not in alignment with the things that God wants for our lives. A
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, why do I have a degree and I'm not thriving in my industry? Why am I doing XYZ and I can't get A,
Ooh.
B, C, D? It's
Mm-hmm.
because we have the gift, but instead
Mm-hmm.
of God and saying, all right, God, like, how should I use this? How do you want me
Right.
to use this? We're
Mm-hmm.
Right.
going our own route, thinking that
Mm-hmm.
our own route is the best route for our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add on to that because it
Yeah.
reminds me of what my pastor was saying over the weekend. So he had a we had a service and he basically talked about being under God's perfect will, and he gave this example and I've had conversation with my pastor regarding this very topic, and what he was stating is that he initially, he's been on fire for God and knew that he was called to be a pastor at a young age, right? And he knew he had that gift. Fast forward, what ended up happening, he wanted also to start his own business, which Pastor Maurice, he does have a business mind, right? So he started his own cleaning service business,
Right, I
right?
remember
Oh.
that.
And
Hmm.
yeah, and it'll start to thrive, and he was building clientele, all these different things. And he said, remember, one day, God told him that, did I ask you to become a cleaning man? He's like, people are now going to know you as a cleaning man versus the pastor that I've called you to be, right?
Ooh.
So at that instant, he's like, I'm not doing this no more, right? Because he realized that he wasn't under God's perfect will for his life. He
Mm-hmm.
started to shift and go a different direction, right?
So
And
yeah, that's good.
so yeah, so to add
Yo,
on
tap
to
me in
what
when you're
what
done.
what Terrence was saying is that a lot of times that we could be given a gift, right? But what happens is that we'll often go a different direction that God has not called us to go. And like you were saying, you wonder why you may not be thriving in the career that you selected or whatever it is, because God's looking at you like, I didn't ask you to do this. This is not
Mm,
what I called you to do.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? This is not the direction. Did you ask me like, hey, should I be a nurse? Did you ask me
Mm.
that you should be a doctor? Did you
Mm-hmm.
ask me that you should, open up this particular business?
Talk.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like you gotta
bruh,
always seek him first. Seek
bruh.
him first, and
You
he's
know,
Mm-hmm.
gonna give you clear
sorry.
instructions on that. No, go ahead, bro.
No,
No, go
I
ahead,
was gonna
bro.
say, you know why David arrived when it came time and he was prepared to kill Goliath? Because when the prophet went to Jesse and said, I believe your sons is going to be the new king.
Mm-hmm.
David was ready, and
Yep.
Absolutely.
so when they
Mm-hmm.
got to him, even though he was the last choice, he was
Yep.
the most ready out of his siblings. And when it came time to kill Goliath, because he was so ready, he knew what he was supposed to do, right? And so when
Right.
you're ready in your gift, right, you don't have to necessarily, flexing and flaunting the gift, but when you're ready for it, you get that call to do whatever it is with that gift that God has, right? And you hear him and you know you're ready, you're gonna thrive.
It's a
Like
fact.
that's it. And so, going back to Jeff, which it's just like, a lot of us, um, we know what our gift is, but the reason why we're not ready is because we're doing the exact opposite of what God has called us to do.
That's so good. And then some of us are stepping out of assignment.
Big
You
Mm,
time.
know, a lot of people, like what Jeff was saying, is like Pastor Maurice's example is like, yo, I was like maybe like in his mind, he's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna make some money on the side, and I'm gonna do this pastoring thing. So, but the messed up part about that is that from the outside, if somebody sees you and they see you in that business mindset, and they like, okay, that's great that he has a business, but he a pastor too, or maybe he does the pastor thing part time. You know what I'm saying? And it's all about what time God wants you in that season. Like if God said, "Hey, Maurice, I want you to be into I want you to start this cleaning business, and I want you to take all of that money from that cleaning business and help
that's
out
not church.
these people." You know what I'm saying? Like, and help the church. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a
Right.
different thing. But it was
Right.
just like in my own mind, I'm gonna do this other project. And God is like, wait a minute, that time that you're spending, I need you to spend that in me, and I need you to work, and there's some work. I need you to put your hand to the plow. I need you to do what I need you to do. You know what I'm saying?
You're serving the wrong thing.
So,
Ah,
yo, time. Yeah, oof.
Go ahead, go
Please,
ahead, Ant.
please.
He said somebody.
Please.
Yo,
Go ahead, man.
yo. The church responsible for your gift when you find that gift?
oh,
Is the church responsible for your gift once you find that
Or,
gift?
so, two questions, however you guys want to answer it. Is the church responsible for your gift, or is the church responsible to nurture that gift when you understand that gift?
okay. Okay, tag me in now because I have.
Okay, Terrence, you're in.
All right, all
Go
right, all
ahead,
right.
bro. Go
Okay,
ahead, bro.
so I'm a firm believer, right, that people are gifts to the kingdom,
Correct.
right? So we all go to our respective churches, right? We are gifts to that church. I believe that how the leader stewards us is how it us as a gift to the church, and if the leader doesn't steward us in our gift to the church, then I personally believe that the leader is not doing the individual's justice. The leadership altogether.
This is
Mm.
respectfully. This is fine print. Respectfully, we're not coming at anybody. Just want to make sure.
Not coming at nobody, but I believe
This is
that
respectfully.
No, but he's
when
speaking
we
facts though.
No, he's
because
speaking mad
remember
facts, but people getting
remember
offended, so I just want to make sure.
because
Well, then
remember
get it together then if you get offended. That's simple. We're doing God's work here. We're doing God's work.
Before you log off, make sure you subscribe.
Exactly. Facts plus tax.
good night. Good. And no, I feel like it is the church's duty to help people in their giftings and to help
Mhm.
them steward it, help them nurture it. Because remember, think about it like this too, especially a lot of people who come to the church. Like I grew up in church my whole life, right? So I figured
Mhm.
out what my gift, well, what part of my gift was from an early age, right? But think about all those people who didn't grow up in church, who get saved at like 19, 21 in their college years, right? And they
Mm.
don't know where to start.
Right,
They don't
right.
know. They don't know what they're called to do. They don't know what they're led to do. They don't know what they're supposed. They're
They
in
don't know
college,
who.
and
They
it's
don't
like,
even know who they are.
right? I
Ooh,
just gave my. Oh, come on. There we go. There we go.
Exactly.
And so I
You
feel like
know.
it's the church ability to go ahead and help them figure out what their gifts are, help them steward it and nurture. And I'll say this, and I say this every time: purpose is seasonal, but destiny lasts a lifetime.
Amen.
ooh.
That's a
Hey,
fact.
all right,
That's a
all
fact.
right.
Terrence, he can't. He didn't
You
come to
talking good?
play.
You talking good? You talking
Right?
good?
And
I.
so there's times going to be helping people with their gifts that's only purposed for that season,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It
right?
changes.
But you have to be
Yeah.
fine with that. It as we grow, I tell people this all the time. I am going to be 33 next month, right?
Ooh,
The
celebration.
amount celebration, the amount of changes that I've made over, let's just say, the last 15 years of life, from when I turned 18, right, to when I turned 21. I got engaged at 23 to when I got married at 24 to when I had my
Ooh.
first child at 26. Like all those changes have taken place in my life and nothing stays the same. So for
Mm.
every part of those changes in life was a different purpose that I was tapping into. But you know what is my destiny? Being a great husband, being a great child of God, being a great father, being a great
Yeah.
son. Those
Yeah.
things are all aligned with my destiny. It's just my purpose has changed from season to season.
I love it. I love it. Because I wanted to go back to what you were saying about like when you get to because when you're in college, it's like that person that's getting saved in college. I remember I came across somebody who was new to the faith,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, "Yo, I feel like this whole faith thing. I feel like God is uh, like we're chess pieces, and God is just moving us around." And like I'm just trying to figure out how to look at God in a different light, you know.
Mm.
And it was so crazy to me, and I was just like that always like stuck with me is like their perception of God and not knowing him. And when I got saved at 14 years old. So I've known church for like forever, and like I remember thinking of God being so distant. I was like, God is like so far away until
Right.
somebody broke it down to me and they said,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, we're not in a religion." I said, "We not?" And then they were like, and then they're like, "We're in relationship with God."
Come on.
And
Yeah.
that literally changed my whole perspective of who
Fact.
God was, that it was a relationship that I had with him and that I could talk to God and I can
That's
walk with
it.
God and he was with me. You know what I'm saying? It literally changed because I always imagined God being like miles away and we could never reach him, you know? That
And he's
it
right there.
exactly. It
Very
changes,
good
it
point.
changes, it changes everything, bro. And oh man, yo, you just dropped some gems,
No,
T.
and I think something that you said, and I want to go back a little bit, Terrence. You said a destiny as a husband, destiny as a father, and sometimes we try to look for this big ass picture, but it's right there looking in your
It's right
face,
there looking at us in
and
our
you
face,
and you
bro.
see looking at different things, and it's like, yo, enjoy the moment. Look
Hmm.
at the things around you. Look at
Right.
Mm-hmm.
the people around you. Those are
Yup.
Absolutely.
people I've destined and designed. Enjoy
Can
Hmm.
them.
can
Yo, go
can
ahead,
I
bro.
add on top of that, Anthony?
Please.
Especially Black church has failed to let people know that they are more than their gift.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. I'm glad so. And the church said, Amen.
Amen.
Very true. I agree.
Now, I want
And
you to
so,
break that down as
oh, I got you,
please,
I got you.
please.
So, you know,
Somebody had.
I'm a creative, right? By nature, I'm a creative. I have a lot of friends in church who were creatives, and creatives on big platforms working in churches with 10,000 people plus that people who are creative and serving small churches. Let's say with 40 people, doesn't matter. They all have gifts. They're all amazing people. No matter the size, from big to small, what ends up happening a lot is that people start to only leaders start to only see people for the gift that they have to serve that particular ministry,
Oh.
Very true.
Absolutely.
Very true.
right? So people now only know you for this one thing, right? Because they now only see you for this one. When that happens, this is what, and conversations I have with pastors, that I consult with and do whatever, you know, I tell them this. I say, when you only look at person one way, you are now limiting their potential
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're
because
putting them in a cage, man.
your selfish will and ambition is
Hmm.
only keeping them for this one thing that serves you and that serves your church. But now, what
Yeah.
about the other things that the Lord is giving them and calling them to do?
Right.
And
Embattled because they don't want to, of course, they don't want to let their church down. They don't want their leadership down, let their pastor down. But in the
Hmm.
end, they're letting themselves down.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
I,
that's
Go ahead,
so
bro.
true. No, I was just gonna add on to that. That's very true, and that's why it's so important as pastors to be very, very much tapped in with God and
Mm-hmm.
really look
Mhm.
at the gifts that this person has, because what can happen, like what Terrence was saying, like let's say for an example, like okay, hey, I'm gonna put you as an usher, right? And so now you're serving as an usher,
Mm,
but there's a calling for you to, let's say, to lead the praise and worship team or to even be a pastor, right? What a pastor should do is recognize that and like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm gonna make sure that you're not only going to be utilized as just an usher. I'm gonna make sure you get utilized in what God has called you to be, and more
Mm-hmm.
importantly, even if it's to, let's say, for I'll use it as an usher for an example. Like you're called to be, not called, but you're serving as an usher. But there's a deeper call in your life to be a pastor, to
Mhm.
even be a senior pastor, to start your
Can
own church. This is where it's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna help guide so you can be groomed and be put in
so,
the position that
can
God
I
is calling you to be, and so you can be that senior pastor at another church and not be afraid to allow that person to grow to where they need to be. That's why it's so important to be tapped in.
I'm gonna add to that, right? Because if somebody is the usher and they want to be a pastor, right? That's amazing. But how are you your team, right? I tell people
Mm.
pastoring comes in all phases, right? So even though it's to do XYZ, right? Your
Right.
purpose this season is that you're leading the ushers. So
Mhm.
how are you pastoring your team? Because we can't have this massive expectation that we can go from the usher to the pastor.
No, 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 no,
Right.
no,
Because
definitely not.
Mhm.
right, no, I know, but I'm not saying that's how you do it, but I'm sure there's people who are listening who in their mind is like, you know what, I do a better job than the pastor, and they're just like, no, you can't slow down, right? And because um, it's because things are in phases, right? If
Mhm.
if if
Things are
God gives
seasons.
you season, come on, there we. If
he's got
if
revelations.
if you're gonna serve, be a leader, pastor your team. Are you checking up on your team? Are you asking them how? Is there anything I can lead you in prayer for? Pray with you about. Is there? Do you need anything? How's your family doing? Like that's what a shepherd does. Like,
Mhm.
That's what a leader does. So
Yeah.
part of
but
being a pastor,
listen,
being with all
a
those
lot of pastors
things,
that's not good leaders.
and that's my
Can I
point.
can I just tap in real quick? Can I just tap in real quick? Because I
Wait,
want
wait,
to
wait,
be
wait,
a.
wait, wait. Hold on.
Go ahead, bro.
Let me finish my point real quick, Anthony, because I'm
Go
gonna lose
ahead.
my point. So, and that's the point that I'm making. It's there's a lot of pastors, and this is not a shot at pastors, but one of the key things of being a pastor is that you got to learn how to lead, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times people are pastors, like what Terrence saying, they're not good leaders, and that's why I use the word groom. How are you grooming that person? Doesn't mean that they're gonna groom overnight from usher to being a pastor. You're seeing
Right.
the potential of that person, and even if it's next year, 2 years, 5 years, you're just seeing that, okay, this is just not your calling just to just make sure people are seated where they need to be seated at a church. Everything is seasonal, everything goes in phases. There is no overnight. Just like if you can have, like, let's say you have a kid, right? You see him in the park, he's dribbling the ball, putting the, what I'm saying, putting the ball inside the hoop. But you could sometimes tell raw talent. Like, you know what? This kid has the ability to play not only high school ball, to probably even make it to the play college ball, and maybe even make it to the NBA. I can see it, but he's not gonna get there overnight. He's gonna have to be groomed, which means he's got to go to summer camp, basketball camp. He's gonna have to perfect his craft. He's got to kind of go through these different series of phases to get to that point. The key thing is like always recognizing the talent that somebody has, or not talent, but the gifts
The
that this
gifts. Yep.
person has, the God-given gift that person has. Because some pastors, let's be honest, they can see it, but because they do not want to lose that person or have that person maybe even outshine them, they
Come on.
refuse
Come
refuse
on.
Yeah.
to pour
Competition.
Come on.
into that person's gift. So
Competition
they so
cease.
they keep them stagnant, or they keep them to where they're just at, as whether if it's an usher, whether if it's just a drummer,
Ooh.
whether if it's
That's
just a
it.
greeter, whatever it
Yep.
That's
is,
it.
because of
Selfish
Oh.
that
ambition. Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
They don't want to groom that person. They don't want to lead that person. Part of being a pastor is being an effective leader. You cannot be a pastor. You don't know how to lead your church. You can't be a pastor. You don't know how to lead, you know what I'm saying, your ministry. Lead the people who are serving
Right.
under you.
Last time I checked my Bible, it says that we all are called to make disciples. All
Exactly.
of us.
And that's the ultimate
Ooh.
goal. That's the
So,
All of
ultimate goal that God has called us to, each and one of us, to do.
Yeah. I mean, so we already should be doing that.
so tap
So
me in real quick, please,
go
please.
ahead, Anthony.
This is such a great conversation. If you liking what you're hearing, please subscribe. We want more. We are going to be having more conversations like this. That was just a good commercial, real quick. So I'm writing down everything you guys are saying. Coaches, raw talent, selfish ambition. But in my opinion,
I knew it was gonna be a butt.
it is a but. It's like, in my opinion, what if the pastor doesn't even have those leadership qualities or understand how to run the church as a business? Like for
Okay.
example, when you
I got an answer for that.
at the end of the year at your job, you have a yearly goal or things of that nature for the following year. So I'm asking myself, as a pastor, he or she, what if they really just don't know how to get you from an usher to a pastor? A lot of
Okay.
times when I've been in, real quick, a lot of times when I've been in education, they don't know how to get me from a dean position to a principal. So I have to do my own research. I got to do everything. So I was like, how do we, or where do we, or what do we do when a pastor doesn't even know how to be a leader? He wants to preach a great word. He or she wants to preach a great word, but at the same time, they don't know how to be a leader.
Pray for your
Go ahead.
pastors.
Huh?
One, pray for your pastor.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Straight
Facts.
up.
it's, the same, things that we seek, right? In terms of being better men, being better fathers, being better husbands, right? They seek those things as well. And, we're all men. And so we're not perfect. I could tell you that I'm not a perfect human being at all. And so praying for your leaders, first and foremost, is the first thing you should be doing. Um, but I think secondly, that the Lord has given me, I'm just gonna say it, is if I see something's wrong and something's turned the wrong way, I'm gonna be like, tap tap tap, yo, that a little bit, 45 degrees to the left, like you're gonna get it right and working the way it's supposed to. So I
Mm-hmm.
never have any quarrels or quorums with speaking up about things that don't look right to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're all of us are different in personalities, being extrovert, introvert, shy, not shy, whatever. Um, but if you see something that doesn't look right, don't be afraid to speak up, because remember, the gift, our in life is to serve others. So if we
Correct.
see something wrong, right, and we pull it out or help to fix the issue, then we're not serving in the way that the Lord intended us to serve.
Mm.
I agree. And to add on to that, some pastors were never called to be pastors. And that's the other
You
thing.
know, that's a question for them and God to have.
And that's a fact. Because sometimes, so me and my pastor, we was having this conversation, and one of the
Right up my
things
question.
he was saying is like, because I asked like, what makes somebody a pastor, right? How does somebody get into becoming a pastor? And one thing he said, what I thought was very profound, and it's true, that, in my opinion, is that you have to be called to be a pastor, right? God has to call you to be a pastor, because again, I could say like, hey, you know what, I want to be a nurse, but that may not be my calling, right? I can say I want to be an engineer, but that may not be my call. Just because I want to do it doesn't mean that's what God is telling me to do. Especially, there's no difference with that being also a pastor, right? That has to be your calling. And I believe, in my personal opinion, that if that's your calling to be a pastor, right, to serve your church in that capacity, God's going to pour those gifts into you. Now, what Terrence said was very true, and I agree 100%. Pray for your pastors. That should be the number one thing. Pray for your pastors because they are human. They can be called to be a pastor, but sometimes what happens is they can lose sight. The enemy will always try to confuse. If you want to have a church be at a huge disarray, you got to start with the pastor. That's why they always say pray for the pastor, right? If the pastor doesn't have it together, the church is not going to have it together because it starts with him or her, right? So you always want to pray for your pastor that the God is, that your pastor is being protected by the enemy. I mean, not be protected from the enemy, rather. God is continuing to use your pastor to lead his flock. You're praying that God continues to download his wisdom, not your pastor's wisdom, God's wisdom into your pastor, right? Because when you have a position of power, it's easy to get caught up into the moment. It's easy to forget about the spirit and get caught up into the flesh. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of responsibility that comes along with any form of position of power. So I would say, like, if you are at a church and you feel like your pastor's not doing a good job leading, have those conversations. Like Terrence said, pray for your pastor, call those things out, have a respectful conversation. But if you still feel like you're not getting it, you still feel like your pastor's not leading you, you still feel like your pastor's not bringing out the gifts that God has given you, and you're seeing just patterns and patterns and patterns of it, then pray to God and ask God if this is a church that you need to leave, and you need to seek a different church and be under a different pastoral guide, because sometimes you need to do that. You know what I'm saying?
I love that you said that. I was talking to one of my mentors a while ago, maybe like a month and a half ago, and we were just having talking about stuff, and we were talking about some mutual friends, and he was telling me that somebody that he with was encouraging somebody about, like, they wanted to leave a church, and they said that they don't disagree with how the church is doing stuff, right? And so my mentor was saying, the person told him, he says, it's not that you don't agree with how they're doing stuff. The church has the same mission, right? To bring people to Jesus Christ and to make disciples. You just don't like the steps that they're taking to get there. Right. And so we're adults, right? I tell people this. If you feel like, you're a part of something and you don't, I mean, unless the Lord is telling you, don't go nowhere. But if you don't like how things are operating, or you don't agree, the steps people are taking to do whatever it is, you can always, respectfully dismiss yourself from the situation.
Correct.
And that in itself is a gift. Knowing when, what, my time is up, and I'm going to step away from this. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. It's been great, but I'm out.
Right. And there, I think there's something within that, like, there's power within that, is what I wanted to say. There's a definite power within that. Like, my commitment level to my church is high. I'm not one of those people where I'm like, at the first sign of something happening, where it's like, or something I don't understand, or something I'm confused at, I'm not gonna be like, what?
I'm
It's
out.
time to pack my bags. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or another thing is, everybody else leaving. Like, so I guess this is my season too.
That's
without even
it.
consulting the Lord. A lot of people
Come
do
on.
that though.
Yeah.
Because we live in a society that's so okay, what are they doing? And we're always looking at other people's lot, but some people just don't say, Lord, what is my lot? Is my lot to be here to help build up this ministry, this part? I still see a need. Am I supposed to be filling that? You know what I'm saying? Like, and rather than ask that, it's easier. It's because it's easier to leave. It's easier for some people to be like, you know what? I'm not getting what I need from this, so I'm gonna withdraw.
It's very true.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of sitting down with two pastors a few weeks ago, and they were talking about how welcome all people to their church. They're not going to tell anybody, no, you can't come to our church. But they said, one of the things that they look at is how people from their current or their past church, and if there's honor behind that.
Very
Right.
true.
Because if there's no honor behind that, it's just like, well, I don't know if I can really trust you in terms of if something is not favorable, are you gonna leave me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I tell people this: honor and let's go hand in hand,
Very
right? So
true.
when you choose to operate in whatever it is that you're doing, right, you're honoring the things that the place before you.
True.
So when you decide to, dip out urgently, the Lord just like looking at you is like, I can't honor, I don't honor that. You want something from me, and you want me to honor that? It's just like, nah, I don't
Mm-hmm.
work that way, bro.
It definitely doesn't. I will always use this example as when I wanted to leave the church I was at before I was at Winners Church, right? And the time I initially wanted to leave, God told me not to leave. He said, wait, right? So I waited. I patiently waited. I continued to stay within that church because there were things that I just did not agree with. And I could just see that my spiritual um my spiritual walk was just it plateaued, right? Where I needed to be was just plateauing. And I just wasn't agreeing with certain things. But God said, wait. And the moment he told me, he's like, it's okay for you to leave now, I made the transition. And by making that transition at the time that God told me to leave is what led me to where I'm at now. Because if I would have stayed or not stayed, if I would have left when God told me to leave, I would have never went to the church that I'm at now, which means I would have never been under the mentorship of my pastor, which means I would have never hit the spiritual gift that God has given me. I would not been utilizing that in my walk right now. I would have never met my wife. I would
I
have
was ready
never.
for that.
Yeah,
I was
I
ready for
would have
that
never.
one.
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting shout out to my chocolate drop. I would have never been doing this podcast and help create this podcast with my two brothers, Anthony and Fred, and with the addition with our special guest, Terrance. I basically would have never had all these things follow suit. Why? Because I was obedient. Why? Because I stayed the course. I stayed in God's will. He said, nope, I know you want to leave, but I didn't tell you to leave yet.
That's it.
Wait.
Obedience is greater than sacrifice.
It is, and that's the part that people forget. Obedience is greater than sacrifice. Because at the
Especially
end of the
with
day,
their gift.
it
Mm-hmm.
is, bro. Because remember, it's never about us. It's to serve, like you said, Terrence,
Is to
and what
serve.
we all been asking the whole time. Exactly. It's to serve. It's to serve
Mm-hmm.
people. It's to serve God. It's never about us. It's about the people that God calls us to serve and to ultimately to serve Him. Because that's how we please Him.
That's it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yo, what is what is something that you'll take from this conversation, T? Like like that
Uh,
a
um,
takeaway.
a takeaway from this conversation for me is that we have a gift, and we know the word says that our to serve. So instead of asking how can gift serve me, ask yourself how can my gift serve others?
Mm.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. What about you, Jeff?
What I got out of this conversation is, man, the beauty of serving, the beauty of serving people, the beauty of serving God, and how by serving people and serving God, it opens up your gift that much more.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. What about you, Anthony?
At this moment, pause, look around you, and you're in your destiny. Don't overthink it. Pause, look around you, you're in your destiny. So
Uh,
I think that's what I got out of it. It's like we look for this big thing, but once you're serving, you're in your destiny. Just keep on going.
Facts.
absolutely. Absolutely. I say for me, I feel like this walk is the walk, man. The walk is the walk, and the word is always true. You know, it ain't gonna never change. Like it's 100% true, and it ain't never gonna change. And
Right.
our gifts will make room for us, but we have to love our neighbors first
Facts.
Amen.
and before everything else. Terrence, man, oh man, you've
Ooh.
been amazing, bro.
Shout out to
Blessings.
Oh
Terrence.
man, it's
Yo,
a
blessings.
pleasure.
Blessings.
I feel like we were sitting with a legend. You know what I'm
I
saying?
told y'all.
Ah,
Terrence dropped some gems, man. You
I
did your
said
thing, bro.
my introduction was wisdom. And he
honestly,
wisdom was
man, like
all throughout the conversation.
it's just in life, everything that you go through, I always ask God, God, what's the lesson in this?
Mm.
hmm
You want me to learn
Mm-hmm.
from this? Because like we don't go through things in life just to go through it and then throw it on the back burner. Like we go
Facts.
through things, learn from it, so the next scenario, the next thing that we're in, like we can be better, we can do better, we can know better. And things that I've said honestly, y'all, is just from,
With
life, and just, talking with God and just like, yo, God, like show me like what that $1,000 thing I just lost money on, like how can I be better from that? Like,
There you
just
go.
like little things like that, like, and so it's key. And going back to the very first thing up, like our walk is so key in
hmm
living this life. Like it's not just yeah, I'm gonna wake up do my own thing. It's just like nah, like yo, I'm gonna be real honest. Sometimes when I'm driving certain places, I got which route you want me to take,
That's real
and and yo, it's real
direction.
because it. Come on,
Direction. That's all it's about, T. And he's the God of the big and the small, man.
yeah.
It's a fact.
Yo,
I'll be
tell him.
like, God, what you want me to wear today? For real. Like like what we doing?
No, but
facts.
Terrence, thank you again, brother. Where can we find you? Plug anything that you want to plug in.
Um,
I know you got a lot of things coming up, but
I
just
got
make plug in, please.
honestly, I could just send me personal IG at Terrence Charles, TerRence Charles, Charles, like the Prince.
I
Love
love it,
it,
love it,
love
love
it,
it, love it,
love
love
it.
it, love it.
We appreciate you, bro.
Now
Terrence,
I
thank you
appreciate you,
again, man.
fellas. Now you
Thank
Thank
you.
you
guys are
for
doing
coming
great
through,
things with this
T.
podcast, and it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure to sit. I appreciate it.
No, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure to have you on here to bless us with your wisdom, your truth, your opinion, and your perspective. We appreciate you, King.
All
Love you
right, King.
guys.
Blessings.
All right. That's been another Top Shelf episode. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.
One love.
Self care is the best care.